Hi, I'm Dawn Montefusco, life coach for writers and creatives, and this is Write Your True Story, how to use your story to grow your business, inspire millions, and leave a legacy. And today we have a very special person. Her name is Cheryl Wood, and I saw her speak in person about a year ago, and she blew me away. She is an award-winning international speaker, author, coach, and entrepreneur. Cheryl Wood impacts audiences around the world with her bold and audacious approach to living life. She trains audiences to overcome self-limiting thoughts of doubt and fear by giving strategic steps to help them ultimately reach their goals. Through telling her inspiring journey of moving from secretary to stadium speaker in 6 years, Cheryl empowers her audience to embrace their next level personally and professionally. Cheryl is the CEO of Personal Power Enterprises and founder of Playtime is Over Women in Business Conference, or the Playtime is Over Women in Business Conference, and the Do It, Love It, Rock It training program, which includes the Rock Your Stage University. She's been featured on many media outlets, including Dr. Oz Show, ABC, Fox News, and Essence Magazine, to name a few. And she's the author of 3 inspirational books: How I Flatlined and Woke Up in 45 Days, The Power to Sizzle, and The Glamorous Side of Entrepreneurship. That sounds so great to read. Thanks, Cheryl.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Really, truly, everyone, all of her information is on this page. Go check her out after this as well. But let's talk first. Tell us a little bit about what you do and any projects you're working on.
Yeah, so I work specifically with women, new, emerging, and aspiring women speakers who are in a space where they want to give power to their voice, to their story, and to their truth. And what I know is that every woman has power in her story, but sometimes we're running in shame or guilt from our story. And so we don't stand on the story, like on the power of what it can do for other people. And so I help to pull that out of women to get them to stop running, stop hiding, stop being in a space of shame or guilt, and realize that your story is so powerful. And most importantly, it's about you, but it's not for you. So yeah, you went through it. You went through the mess, the trauma, the drama, whatever you experienced. But the lessons that you learn on the other end are to bless and help someone else to feel like they're not alone, or that they can make it through the struggle they're currently going through.
That's awesome. I love how you said that. That's true. The not alone piece, you just jumped right into that. That's something that, I really don't think that we understand the value of. Can you talk a little bit more about that not alone piece? Because I know that I felt completely alone until I started to actually speak my truth. And I don't even know what that meant at the time.
Yeah, sometimes we do feel like what we're going through it's unique only to us. And the reality is, especially as women, a lot of the things that we go through, the challenges, the setbacks, the roadblocks, other women are going through the same thing or who have gone through it and have come out with a solution on the other end of it. So whether it's divorce or a bad breakup or being in a toxic relationship or friendship, or whether it's you went through financial insecurity or financial disruption in your life, whatever it is, someone has gone through that somewhere. And sometimes it's just nice to know that you're not alone. And so the more women who are sharing their story and their truth, the more we get other women to know, I'm not standing in this alone. There is someone somewhere who understands the pain that I'm going through, who understands the frustration or the discouragement or the despair that I feel right now. And so I can potentially learn from their story and how I make it through this.
Excellent. Awesome. How does being authentic and vulnerable by telling your story help to attract your tribe, your community, just by sharing your authentic story?
Yeah, you know what? I love just sharing my raw truth because I believe it gives other people permission to do the same. So there's something about seeing someone who is not running from their truth and who just speaks up boldly without shame and holds their head up to say, yeah, those were the cards that I was dealt. but I don't have to be defined by the cards that I was dealt. And
Mhm.
I think by sharing my truth in such a raw, authentic state, it magnetizes people into that space to
Mm.
say, I want to be able to do that thing that you do. Like I've literally had people say that, that thing you do on stage where you're just so, and they try to articulate it and they can't. And it's really, as you mentioned, just being authentic and transparent and being willing to be vulnerable and say, yeah, I'm up here on the stage and I'm speaking to you as your keynote speaker today, but I ain't perfect and my journey hasn't been perfect and I don't have all the answers. And people find solace in that
Mhm.
level of vulnerability that, whoa, you're the expert, the guru on stage,
Mhm.
and yet you're willing to share your truth and your mess to
Mhm.
help deepen the level of engagement with those of us who are still going through our mess.
Yes. And I almost find it amazing that like when I hear about people's messes, I go, oh my gosh, there's hope for me. There's
Yeah.
like, because if they got through whatever they got through, it's possible I might get through. Can you tell us a little bit about what you went through? Like a couple of, for people that don't know you, your struggle.
Yeah, I mean, I always like to go kind of back to the beginning because it's so sexy to read the titles now. Oh, she's an international speaker and she's been in Forbes and Huffington Post and all these places, and that's great. But I think the power is in knowing where a person comes from, to see how they have evolved and progressed through hard work, through dedication, through persistence, through resilience.
Mhm.
And so, if I went all the way back to my young childhood, I actually grew up in poverty in the inner city of Baltimore, Maryland, in a housing project. And
Mhm.
every day I saw some of the worst parts of life. I saw violence and crime and drug addiction and teenage pregnancy and people who worked every day and still couldn't afford to put food on the
Oh,
table for their kids, which included my mom. My
mhm.
mother's one of the hardest working women I know. She was
Mhm.
one of those women who had hundreds of days of sick leave built up because she never took a day off work.
Oh,
And yet, even though she worked that hard, she still was
mhm.
in such a low bracket of being employed that she could not put food on the table without government assistance. So we
Absolutely.
came from that environment, and I went through that environment. There were a lot of kids who I grew up with who succumbed to that environment. They didn't make it out. They became statistics. And
Absolutely.
I was just determined I didn't want to be a statistic. I wanted to be a success story, regardless of where I came from. So I went through high school, graduated high school. Now, I did not go off for 4 years of higher education and higher learning. I went straight from high school into the workforce. Why? Because I wanted to get my mom out of poverty and I wanted to get out of poverty. So I was in the mindset of, look, I got to somehow survive and get out of here so that
Yeah.
I can pull our family out of here.
Yes.
And I share that because people see me now and they assume, sometimes people make assumptions that
Mhm.
you're
Oh
so
yeah.
educated and you have this piece of paper that says you're good enough. And I like sharing the story that I don't have that piece of paper
Mhm.
because too many people use that as an excuse of why they're not doing the thing that they've been called to do. Oh, I don't have a college degree. Well, neither do I. But
Mhm.
that doesn't mean I am not called to do the work that I do. So when you look at my background, technically, success really might seem like it shouldn't be attached to it because I didn't go the traditional route.
Mhm.
But I believe that every one of us, our journey is supposed to be our journey. And how you get to success may be different from how I get to success, but all that matters is that you're willing to focus on what you have versus what you're lacking or the strikes that you feel are against you in order to get to the thing that you believe is your destiny.
I love that. You just make me so happy. It's so, and that's what happens when you hear that great kind of story, and it's interesting. I was like, whoa, I came from a blue collar poor family in South Bronx, right?
Mm,
And nobody starts their own business.
right?
No, it's not even in they don't even know the language for it. And so
Yeah.
even though I did go to college, and by the way, it didn't matter that I went to college for my business, my
Yeah.
entrepreneurship, I had to learn all new tools, I couldn't ride on a coattail of a piece of paper where I was getting a job in a corporation or any of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Great point.
And so, but I was really like, oh my gosh, and I was making everyone feel bad for me. She doesn't, she's struggling because I struggled. I didn't
Hmm.
know what I was doing at all. Like it was rough. And I was trying to posture that I was okay. And I think posturing that I was okay when I wasn't okay was also making me not ask for help.
Yes.
And the whole thing was just a crazy struggle. So it's so amazing to see someone who really struggled and got to where she is and is still going. Because I love that you say that. You say, what are all of your speeches are amazing. It was all about just not giving up and being consistent, and just like there is no end until you pretty much get to where you're going. And I think once you get there, you go somewhere else too. So
Exactly.
so yeah, very amazing. Your energy is fascinating to some degree, in that sense of just one foot in front of the other. Just keep going.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you just articulated that so well in a nutshell. It's I always say, I just keep showing up until somebody pays attention. I never come, most times I don't come into the room and I'm the biggest name, or I don't have the big title, and, but I just keep showing up. And it's like, the more you show up, somebody's going to finally eventually ask, who is this chick? Who is this Cheryl Wood person that's showing up at everything?
You
And
have
then,
a great line.
here's the thing.
Tell everybody your great line. I love visibility trumps ability.
Visibility will always trump ability. I believe visibility is the thing that gets your foot in the door, and then ability is what keeps you there.
Love that. I think that's a message for everyone right there.
Yeah.
Did you ever have doubts though, where, like, for people out there who are, afraid yet to tell their true story, even though that is where you really bond and you get the trust and you bring your tribe in, was there ever a time where you were like, maybe I shouldn't, maybe I should?
Yeah, I mean, as I started to grow in my speaker career and I started getting invited into corporate spaces, I was really afraid because, in the corporate world, they put a lot of emphasis on education. And that's how you grow. That's how you grow up the corporate ladder, is what degrees do you have? What certifications do you have? And so when I started getting booked for corporate, I was like, I don't know if this is a good idea. And there was a lot of fear talking to me, making me think if maybe I wasn't good enough, making me question, that's the word, making me really question whether or not I was qualified to serve in front of people who had master's degrees and PhDs. And here I was, this uneducated girl who came from poverty. And so those spaces were a little more challenging for me to realize, Cheryl, you can just be authentically you. And you can absolutely stand in your truth and not hold your head down, and be so proud of what you've done and how far you've come and how many times you've had to bounce back and how many times life has gut punched you and you just refuse to stay down. Like, you can be proud of that, and you can be proud of being hired as the expert to be on this stage, because there's something unique that you bring to the table that is clearly missing, which is why they said yes to you.
You know what else is that? I bet by telling that true story or being in your truth also magically really does build that trust that I swear in corporate, there's not a lot to trust. I'm going to just say, everyone's trying to like posture and be that, but it's almost like it's like water in a desert. They're just like, wow, a real person is talking to us.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that building of trust when you're.
Yeah, that's such a great point. It's so true. And, I was in corporate America for 15 years. I worked as a legal secretary for 15 years. And I used to work for the rainmakers in law firms, the people who were bringing in millions of dollars. I used to work for one of the largest transportation companies. I used to work for the general counsel. So I always was in a position that was highly visible. I rubbed shoulders with the C-suite folks, right? So I understand how corporate functions. And a lot of times they can tend to be emotionless. Let's just say that. Sometimes emotionless, and almost don't feel like they have permission to be human. It's just come here, do the job, and get it done, and then you go home when it's done. And that's it. And so to have someone as animated as me, as energized as me, to come in and get the audience, hyped up and excited about it for a change. It's like, who wants to come into an environment every day and have your head down and be depressed about what you have to do? Look, life, you get one time at this thing. And I don't care what you're doing, what the career path is, you have a right to be excited about what you do every day. You have a right to feel energized and feel like you're contributing to a greater cause. And so I just always maintain the authentic Cheryl. I'm animated. I make a whole lot of facial expressions. I gesture a lot. And anytime I questioned that, I would just disconnect the conversation that fear was having with me and say, Cheryl, it's worked for you until this point. So why would you change now?
Yes.
And every time I did that, I'll never forget, this was maybe 3 years ago, I got booked to go and do a 4-hour communications training in Boston, Massachusetts for a host of marine biologists. I was like, okay, God, I don't know why you are sending me on this assignment right here. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna teach these people, these really, 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 really smart people. And as soon as I got there, right as they were introducing me, before I went into the door, fear showed up, and fear was like, oh my God, maybe you shouldn't be as animated. Maybe you should tone it down a little bit, Cheryl. Maybe you shouldn't tell the part that you don't have a college degree. That's what fear was saying to me in that moment. And I had to shift out of that negative, toxic self-talk in that moment and say, you are enough to be here. You are qualified. You have done the work. And it doesn't matter what you don't have. What matters is, what do you have that will serve this audience well? And as soon as they finished introducing me, I bust in the door and I said, I need everybody to stand up on their feet. And I need you to repeat after me. And they were looking and they were shocked and they were stunned, but they loved it. They loved every ounce of it. And they sat in that space for 4 hours and not one person left the room. And
Wow.
that was confirmation that you've always got to show up just in your unique, authentic voice and story.
That is fantastic. Now you help women. Well, first, you and your daughter wrote books about your stories, correct?
Yeah. So my daughter has authored 2 books. She authored her first when she was 9 years old, and then she authored her second book when she was 11 years old. And she does a lot with that. Sometimes we get booked as mom-daughter speakers for events. So we'll both go and sell our books. But I also am big on giving back. And so one of the great things she just did recently was she donated or sponsored 75 copies of her book for a young girls brunch that's hosted by a nonprofit organization every year for 75 girls who are in foster care or group homes.
Wow.
And so I love that she gets to not just write and share her story and sell books, but also use it as a way to give back and to pour into others. So yeah, so we both have written books, and as I mentioned, we go out and we try to do really good community work with our projects, not just make it, oh, this is a profit thing.
Do you ever work with women that are afraid to write their stories down? I find that sometimes people are okay to talk about it, but to actually put it somewhere,
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, how would you help someone who's they want to write it down, whether it's a bio, whether it's a website, a blog, or a book, but it's harder for them to write it down. What would maybe be something you would help them get past that?
Yeah, I think just always challenging yourself to be better.
Yeah.
Like, it's always our human tendency is to navigate towards and shift towards the things that are easier for us. So for me, verbal communication is easy. It just is, it's my gift, my God gift. But I'm not big on writing. And yet I've authored 7 books.
Yeah.
Because I constantly challenge myself, Cheryl, how do you become better than what you are today? And for me, writing it is so important because in 2009, the same year I started my business, I actually lost my dad. My dad passed away. He was 59 years young, and he passed away of a massive heart attack in his sleep. 59.
Wow.
On Thanksgiving Day in 2009. That was the phone call I woke up to. And the reality is my father was a very complex man. He suffered from alcoholism, and that's what I knew of him growing up, that it wasn't a pretty life. It wasn't a pretty childhood. I saw him go to prison numerous times. I mean, it was rough. And I always wondered why he was the man that he was and why he allowed himself to continue to go back to alcoholism And when he passed, some of his family members started to speak his truth. And I wondered, why didn't they speak that truth while he was living? Because that could have impacted our relationship in a different way. So now once he's gone, it's like, okay, the reality is if you don't tell your truth and put it in writing, it will either never get told or it will get told from someone else's perspective.
Wow, good point.
So when I think of those 2 options, no, I'm telling my story. You're not going to tell my story. No. So for every person who is struggling with that, it's tedious. And I get it because I don't enjoy it, but it's important because it's a part of my legacy. It's a part of my legacy that's going to be passed down and that's going to exist long beyond my physical body.
Yes.
And so we owe it to ourselves to put our stories in writing.
You say something, you don't always know how or why, how something's gonna roll up, all right, but movement,
Yeah.
that legacy, putting it down, getting it out there, just putting it there. You never know what'll happen. I mean,
Yeah, you don't. I mean, I didn't know that I was going to be a speaker. I
yeah,
started out as a t-shirt. I had a t-shirt business, and that was just to
okay.
get started and be in movement. I was still working my full-time job as a legal secretary. I started this t-shirt business, mommy t-shirt business called Moms Are the Best. And it was just to get in motion so that I could interrupt my norm. Because
Yes.
sometimes we get so complacent and comfortable in doing what we've always done. And
Mhm.
so how do you know what's on the other side of that? How do you know what's on the other side of your fears and discomfort
Yes.
until you get into movement? And it was through movement that I was detoured into speaking.
Mhm.
And now here you have Cheryl Wood, the international speaker.
I love it. I love it. You're such a bright light. You have, let's see, you have 7 books out. You also have like a ton of information on your website. How has like just the online world, social media, helped you get your story out further or get your visibility out? I mean,
Oh yeah, it's been a godsend. I
mhm.
mean, if you're not leveraging social media, you are cray cray. Because it's, first of all, it's been this way for several years. It's free advertisement. I tell people all the time, it allows you to take your story beyond just your local pond and into the global ocean.
Yes.
Because sometimes people only think in terms of local and what's in my backyard and my zip code. No, there's a whole world out there of people who need your story and need your truth and need to know they're not alone and need to learn from your experiences so that they can press through whatever they're going through.
Yes.
So it's social media is huge. Many of the media opportunities that I've gotten through Huffington Post and Forbes magazine, and even through some of our local television stations here that I frequently am a guest on, has been through social media.
Yes.
So do not discount being actively engaged. So
Mhm.
it's not enough just to say, oh, I have a Twitter account, but I don't know what the login is.
Yes.
Or, or I have an account, but I haven't been on there in months. That's not good enough anymore. Like, you've got to tap into the resources that are available to you so that you can get your story out there to the masses.
Yes, yes. Did you, so was there a time where you never really pictured yourself being where you are today? That was there, or did you always dream about it, or was it a glimmer with t-shirt business?
Yeah. I had a vision. My first speaking engagement was September 18th, 2010. And when I say a vision, I just mean I visualized where I wanted to be. I visualized what it would feel like to be on big stages and speaking to thousands of people. Like in my mind, I could already see what
Nice.
that would feel like and what the experience would be like. But yes, there were moments of doubt. There were moments because there were moments when things that I thought should have happened didn't happen.
Good
There
point.
were times when there were opportunities that I felt like I should have received that I didn't receive.
Mhm.
And I had to realize that it's a process, it's a journey. And sometimes when you think you're going to be going in this direction, you're actually going to be pointed in a different direction. And it could be completely different of where you think. That's why I don't think we can be married to a blueprint. A
No.
blueprint is just a sketch, but that you have to be open to that sketch changing
Oh,
and flexible with it, because the way you think that you're going to get in or get to where you want to be may not be that exact way. So I
yes.
had to learn not to be discouraged and disappointed and crushed when I heard no, or when I didn't get invited to a certain opportunity and it went to someone else, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, the disappointment was there, has been there. And that disappointment sometimes led to doubt about whether or not I would ever get to where I wanted to be.
And sometimes don't you think that when we hear no, we get really sad, then something else comes up and it's a big yes. And we're like, oh, maybe that's why that was a no. Like the picture could be bigger than we know, you know?
I just had that happen. So it doesn't stop. I'm talking about even now in this space. So I was nominated for 2 awards. I gotta share this. I was nominated for 2 awards. And I'm not kidding you. I had my heart set on these awards. I was like, yes, I want those awards. And I felt deserving of the awards, right? Once they sent me the notification that I had been nominated. So I was excited and I was waiting for the announcement. And the announcements came and I was not on the list for either award. And I sat back and asked myself, am I really making the impact I think I'm making? Or is it just in my own mind? Like that, but that's just fear
That's
showing
just,
up.
Totally.
trying to convince you that you're not enough, that you didn't get it for some reason.
Absolutely.
But right behind that, literally this morning, I got an email from someone who said, Miss Wood, on behalf of the committee for this organization, we would like to notify you that we want to honor you at our annual leadership summit in Johannesburg, South Africa.
What?
I
Congratulations.
I posted that on Facebook, my Facebook page today. That makes me want to cry because, like you said, and all I could hear was God saying, see, you're so busy thinking local, but I'm thinking global, Cheryl. And
Wow.
it just hit me like a ton of bricks that you're right. Sometimes the no is to detour you to where you're really supposed to be at in that moment, in that space.
Oh, Cheryl, you are a blessing.
Thank you.
It was making me cry. I got chills up and down my spine from that one.
Yeah. Like that blew me away because I was almost in a place of a funk about that. Like, wow, I started to question, am I
Yeah,
making the impact that I think I'm making?
and
And
boom.
God came right back with the answer, like, oh, don't even start questioning that. You're making the impact. Keep showing up, and let me show you how I'm going to take your message global. So,
Oh, that's
yeah,
perfect. Well,
yeah.
we're already at time, so I really want to say thank you. And you have an awesome free gift for everyone. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. So I've created this exciting ebook, and the topic of it is 10 key ways to share your voice with prospective clients. Because what I know is that all of us have the potential to build wealth and prosperity and abundance for ourselves and to impact lives globally. But we have to get out there and intentionally find ways and create ways to share our message and our story and our voice with the world. And so these are 10 ways that you can follow. You can implement these consistently. And if you do it on a consistent basis, you will experience the results.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much. And thanks for being here. It's really a pleasure. This has been an amazing series and you have added to it tremendously. So I appreciate
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the work that you do. I'm loving this plaque on your wall, the Write, Create, Inspire. It moves me. I love it. And thank you so much for being you.
Oh, thank you. I look forward to seeing you again sometime soon and have a great
Yes.
time and congratulations on that award.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, Cheryl, we'll talk to you soon someday.
All right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.